Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, my name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Tonight, we're going to go into the Canadian forest, searching for monsters, legends like Bigfoot, Dogman, and whatever else is lurking. Author W.T. Watson, we call him Travis around here, is our guest tonight. He's got a very nice goatee, and you know we're a good fan of high-quality facial hair around here. But before we bring Travis in, let's say hello to all of you. Race fan in the gold medal position. We have Penny Van in for the silver. Taking home the bronze tonight is Michael Morris. All right, congratulations. Moving on here, we have Brown Dwarf, Robert Lamoth, Hugh Mann. How are you? Welcome to SOR Chat. Human Carl is here, a great veteran in Human Carl. Thank you so much for joining us, Human Carl, and your service to the United States Air Force. Lisa C., good to have you here. Gong Show, Les Paul Holland, Sandy B., how are you? Thurston Howell III, Eric Markham, good to have you here, buddy. And who else? Forrest Louie, nice to see you. Pixie Lara, always a pleasure. There he is, ladies and gentlemen. Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby has arrived, which means we can officially start this show. Hi, W. David Page and Millennium and Caroline Start, Brown Dwarf. Good to have you here. Love V. Love, thank you for coming on in. And Search and Destroy, good to see you. Crystal J, thank you for joining us. Pam Harris, thank you so much for that awesome super chat. Very much appreciate you, my dear. Thank you for the love. Sibylla Irwin, good to see you. And Area 51, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. W. Decker, how you doing? The tinfoil cod piece. W. Decker right there. Thank you for the super chat, my man. It's good to have you back in here. Thank you for listening. All right. Northern California Cubs fan is here. NorCal will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. Hi, Luscious Jules. Ozzy Sue, Grandizer. Nikki in Seattle. Esmeralda, thank you for all coming in. And who else do we have? Juan Marquez. How you doing? Welcome to SOR Chat. Hi there, Hadley. Hadley will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind. To the right of the studio. Moving on here, we have our good friend Digger Dog. Leafson 67. Good to have you here. 67. Yeah, you know the chant. You've heard it for years. Maggie M10. Forrest Louie, thank you again for that super chat. Very much appreciate that, Louie. And Crave Dog Ollie, good to have you here. Hi, Jack Clark. And where are we here? Limey Linda, welcome to SOR Chat. Thank you for joining us. Sensational Sherry. Jenny, good to see you, my dear. Hi, Deb from SAC. And who else do we have? Oh, Deb, thank you for that lovely super chat as well. Before we continue on, let's start the radio side, because we kind of have to do that. And that way, our good man, Bill WD-40, will be able to come on into the house. And let's go there. And that way he can get into tonight's show. And where am I here? All right. Yeah, we're moving here. All right. Marty Burback, good to have you here. Nathan from the Quantum Show. Super Duke. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Hugh, for that super chat. Very much appreciate it. And there we go. And who else we have? Tracy Moore, good morning to you. And NorCal, thank you, buddy, for that super chat right there. I appreciate that. We're having a great show tonight, guys. Monster Talk on a Friday night. That's the way it's supposed to be. Dark Protocol, good to have you here. And Mr. Catfish, always a pleasure. Blue Cruise, nice to see you. Dry Toast, the best name on YouTube. And we're caught up. Oh, there's Joshua S. We are then caught up. There is Bill WD40. Beautiful Bill lubing us up for tonight's show on the Spreaker side. Here we go, everyone. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by CHIVE Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting CHIVE Charities today. You can find them on our website. Yeah, we got a great show of Monster Talk tonight. Author W.T. Watson. We're going to call him Travis around here because that is his first name. And we're going to talk about some serious woo in the Canadian forest. Then in hour number 3, we're going to head to the swamp. Then we're going to get into some Mufon talk and Enigma talk with UFO Report and Tim Senor. All right, let's get right to it tonight. Amazon best-selling author W.T. Watson is a coffee addict and a writer of both fiction and nonfiction. He infuses his work with his expertise in cryptozoology, monster lore, magic for Tiana, and the paranormal. Travis brings a unique shamanic and magical perspective to all of his work after 30 years of exploration on these topics. Yeah, you can find his books on Amazon. Travis, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. It's very good to have you here, my friend.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this chat tonight.
Me too. Anytime you get to talk monsters, that's a good night. Did you ever think
Monsters are always a good time, right?
You got that right. Did you ever think growing up that you could consider yourself a monster hunter when you got big and strong?
Well, I actually started my interest. Well, okay, so backing up just a touch, my entree into the strange was actually my father, who was a UFO experiencer. He had a really intense sighting in San Bernardino, California, back in the 50s. You know, the classic cigar-shaped, you know, UFO of that time period with the purple portals and the whole schmear, while he and a buddy were driving through the desert out there. He told me that story at about the same time that I picked up a comic book, Ripley's Believe It or Not comic book on ghosts, and I was hooked on the paranormal and Fortean from that point forward. By the time I got to 6th grade, I had already read Ivan Sanderson's Abominable Snowman book. So, like I said, I've been doing this for, doing this stuff for a long time.
Still love it though.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And some people say that they have hobbies like woodworking and and you know, games or whatever. You know, my hobby is the paranormal. You know, it's just I've just always been fascinated by it, continue to be fascinated by it, and Sasquatch is one of those things that's always had my attention since I was younger. And of course, my opinions about that have evolved over time, but it's still a fascinating topic, and it gets weirder the longer you hang out with it.
Do you think the entire phenomena is connected?
I have a suspicion, you know, and in my when it comes to certain aspects of particularly the Sasquatch phenomena, but also, you know, UAPs and ghosts and so forth, that that there's intelligence back there somewhere that's messing with us. Yeah, I guess some people would call it the trickster. I don't know what you would call it, but you know, if you look at UFO lore particularly, you see a continuing history of these craft that are evolving over time, right? So, and it always seems to be just a little bit more advanced than what we're able to put forward. You know, we started off with those airships back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and then we moved into you know, the Foo Fighters during World War II, and you got the flying saucers in the 50s. Then you started to develop other styles of craft, and then we started getting the giant triangles and stuff, and now we got Tic Tacs. And they always seem to be just a little bit more advanced than what we can field at that time. You know, and so it's like the phenomena is playing with us to keep us interested and keep us moving forward in you know, trying to explore these things. I often think that maybe we have a situation where something, whatever you want to call it, some intelligence, has realized large swaths of Western civilization no longer have real rites of passage, or you know, these sort of initiatic experiences. And so it's supplying people with initiatic experiences that get them off their bums and get them to thinking about, you know, things other than, you know, where's my next meal coming from, or, you know, the whole Western scientific material paradigm. You know, it shakes a lot of people who have these experiences up to their core and really changes them. And so, you know, that's kind of my theory. That is sort of an overarching thing that I think about. But you know, when we talk about Sasquatch in particular, I'm a bogan thinker. Yeah, I'm entirely okay with the idea that somebody might haul a Sasquatch out of the woods someday. That there is actually an unknown primate out there in the vast swaths of Canadian wilderness, and that you know, that it's a real physical creature. At the same time, there's also always these sightings, these encounters that are strange, and so, you know, we have to acknowledge that there are aspects of this phenomena that can't be explained by physical means. You know,
Very
so
true.
uh,
Very true.
I can buy into the unknown hominid, and I can also buy into other more bizarre explanations. I talk about that a little bit in the conclusion of the book. There's, you know, keep an open mind about these things. It's very much the case that uh, you know, there are a number of different theories that could explain some of the things that people are seeing. You know, whether we're talking about somebody having a spontaneous psychic experience, a time slip, um, you know, or even you know, there are folks that have proposed that some Bigfoot sightings are actually ghost phenomena. You know, that we're seeing the ghost of some past hominid. There's all kinds of ways that things that could possibly explain some of this stuff. Um, in addition to there being possibility of a physical presence. So um, I had a lot of fun. I have a lot of fun, I should say, because it's an ongoing thing with me, doing the research for these kinds of books.
And I can see why. I can totally see why. For you, do you have a favorite? Is it the cryptids? Is it the ghosts? Is it UFOs in the sky?
Oh, I love my monsters. I gotta say, if I had to choose a favorite, and I haven't written a book about this one, but if I had to choose a favorite, I'd say probably the man wolf or dogman that Linda Godfrey brought to the forefront. Um, Back before her passing. So great loss to the cryptozoological community. Her books were fantastic. I just loved all of them. But yeah, that would probably, if I had to choose a favorite, it would be my favorite because I've always had a soft spot for werewolves anyway. Um, and it's just such an interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, there's always been these legends of werewolves, but the whole man wolf dog man thing really kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, Linda talks about some sightings that happened in the 30s, or a sighting that happened in the 30s, but most of the stuff that she documented, it started off, I think she started with Beast of Bray Road in the 90s. And it just grew from there. Now, is it just that people weren't talking about those things beforehand? Or is it that this phenomena is relatively new? Maybe the intelligence that's behind these things said, well, werewolves don't really freak people out too badly now, so I'm going to give them, the man wolf, give them something scary in the corn to keep them thinking about things. Don't know,
Have you ever had
but
an
I
encounter
really,
yourself, though?
um, my encounters, my experience with the paranormal has been more in the realm of synchronicities. Where I will make some expression of intent, and then strange things will happen around me. um, uh, I did live in a house in Western New York when I was still living in the States. That bordered a decent sized state park, and we had some interesting um, noises. I was walking to my bus stop early one morning. Like I had to commute in Buffalo. It's about an hour ride on the bus, and so I'd walk down to the end of my street to catch the bus, and I'd walk along, heard a sound, and this is weird. It sounded like if I imagined what it would sound like if a dragon were back in the forest and it huffed at me, that's what it sounded like. Now, I have no idea what it was. I don't know. It's just that it sounded like something extremely large. Um, Additionally, uh, in the same house, um, I had now to back up again. I'm not a person who's afraid of the wilderness. I've camped out by myself in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. I volunteered as a wilderness search and rescue person. I'm pretty comfortable in the woods. Um, but I had a period of time every fall and every spring for about a week, um, where we had a big picture window in the living room where I absolutely had to keep the curtains drawn after dark. Could bear to have them open. Um, and that was the only time that I had that problem, was during that time period, a week in the fall and in the spring. It's like something was migrating and I didn't want to see it. Whatever it was, I didn't want to see it. Those are two things that kind of stick out in my mind. But as I said, my interest has come from people that I've known, people that I've talked to, people like yourself who've had experiences. I'm not one of those I have to see it to believe it people. I tend to believe witnesses unless it's really clear to me that they're lying.
I'm the same way, and the theme of this show, and I've taken some heat over it over the years, is we believe everybody because we've never stood in your shoes. Who am I to sit
Yeah.
there and say if you're telling me your experience, what you had happen to you? Who am I to sit there and say, no, you didn't have that happen? No, you didn't. I'll ask you questions about it, but it's not my job to
Sure.
judge. This is your experience. And it's amazing how many people in this field or have interest in this field absolutely loathe the experiencer because of the
Oh,
anecdotal evidence.
yeah. And that's one of the things that really, really bugs me. Um, Anecdotal evidence is one of the primary evidences that we have for a lot of these phenomena. Now, let's take Sasquatch as an example. If I had to take uh, the evidence for Sasquatch into a court of law, with all witness testimony and so forth that we have, for the existence of this creature, you could easily put this to a jury, as long as they were impartial, because there's so much testimony. I mean, everybody thinks that. This is one of my things that I laugh about a lot of times is that, there are a lot of people in the United States, myself included at one point, who thought that, Canada was like this big ice sheet that existed above the US border. And people lived in igloos, there were bears and stuff, right? I had no idea that A, this was the second largest country in the world, and B, that the vast majority of the population in Canada live within 150 miles of the US border. There are people who live out in the wilderness, but most of the population is concentrated down along the border. I can drive 2 miles from where I'm sitting right now, or not 2 miles, I'm 2 hours from where I'm sitting right now, and be in deep woods. So it's very. There are vast swaths of forest and boreal forest throughout Canada. And we have our own Lazarus species. We lost the wood bison, the second largest land animal in North America by weight, for like 50 years. We thought it was extinct until an Alberta forestry person saw a herd of them as they were doing a flyover in a particular region of Alberta. So if you can lose bison in in the woods in Canada, you could sure lose a Bigfoot.
Hey, most Canadians don't even know that one of the biggest animals that is up north is the muskox. You never
Mhm.
hear Canadians talk about muskox, yet they're up
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. They're up there. If you go far enough north, you can find muskot. Find all kinds. Now, another thing that people often argue is, oh well, I don't know, Sasquatch could actually exist. How would it eat and stuff? It's like, have you looked at the flora and fauna available in the Canadian wilderness? I mean, they feed brown bears, they feed cougar, they feed wolves, they feed all kinds of apex predator type critters, mountain lions. There's no reason why, a large bipedal hominid or ape, whatever it happened to be, couldn't exist up here. Absolutely none.
Oh yeah, and what's funny is I'm just curious how big they get
Oh yeah.
because from all intents and purposes, everything seems to get bigger the more north you go.
Hmm.
The bears get bigger, the moose gain about 1,000 pounds, the elk become huge, the caribou become huge, wolves become much bigger, you know, uh,
Hmm.
where I am, they're probably just a little bit bigger than a dog, but you go up north, I mean, some of those wolves get, 8-10 feet tall if you stand them on their hind legs. It's
Hmm.
scary.
They're
There's no
huge.
reason to think that maybe up north we're not dealing with 10 to 18 feet Sasquatch.
Yeah. Well, so here's another thing that bugs me. I'm going to talk about things that bug me tonight.
You go.
So there are, people who do a lot of research and do a lot of field work in the Sasquatch phenomena. And I admire those people, that can actually spend, a lot of time out in the woods, doing what they do, right? But unfortunately, these guys have some of them, not all of them, but some of them have decided that they know everything there is to know about Sasquatch. And that Sasquatches are, on average, males are 8 to 10 feet tall. Now, then you get a sighting like the one up at Bighorn Dam in Alberta. Construction crew spots this creature up on a ridge line, and they use trees and whatnot to estimate the height. And when they go over there to look, by their measurement, this thing was 15 feet tall. Now, of course, the experts bent over backwards, drawing. It's funny, in the books that I read about this particular sighting, they actually drew diagrams and stuff explaining how that wasn't really the case, that this Bigfoot was standing on a hummock or something, and they just didn't realize it. It's like, okay, guys, first of all, we don't really know what we're dealing with here. Yeah. And nobody is an expert. Secondly, I use myself as an example of this. I'm 7. The average, North American male is like 5'10", 5'11" feet tall. I mean, I don't exist because I'm taller than the average. Who's to say that there aren't Sasquatch that are much taller than the average? And there seems to have been a number of these rather large Sasquatch in that particular area of Alberta, because there's several sightings from that area of Sasquatch that were 14, 15 feet tall. I mean, I'm not going to argue with the witness. If the witness says that they saw it, particularly some of these guys, some of these people that are seeing these creatures have spent more time in the woods, hunting and trapping, or whatever it is that they do out there, hiking, than most people spend sitting behind their desk at work. If they tell me they saw 15-foot Sasquatch, then hey, I'm gonna buy that.
Absolutely. We got about 1 minute to go here before we have to go to break. At the bottom of the hour, author W.T. Watson is our guest tonight. Are you on team animal or are you on team supernatural when it comes to something like Bigfoot or Dogman?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I take a more nuanced view. I'm on both teams, actually. Because, like I said, I'm perfectly okay with the idea that there might be a physical hominid or ape, a bipedal ape. I also am perfectly okay with the native idea that this creature is something that walks between worlds and actually is a spiritual being that comes into our reality, has a solid presence here, and then can walk out of it. Either one or both of those things work for me. I don't see why it has to be either or. So that's my spiel for that.
And it is the great debate that will continue, until whatever happens. We get a body or something else happens. I don't know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, but the debate continues.
And even
Leave it right there. Leave it right there, Trev. We're going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour.
Okay.
W.T. Watson is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Yeah, talking monsters, Canada style, here on the mighty SOR. We will return right after this. Stay tuned. Quick half hour.
Yeah, it does go fast.
Yeah.
Of
I'm
course, it
on
helps that
team.
I talk to her about this.
Oh, works for me. I'm on team supernatural. I'm on team
Well,
supernatural.
I am definitely of the opinion that there is a supernatural element to this phenomena. Um, because there's just too many stories of weird stuff like, you read Stan Gordon's Silent Invasion, the Pennsylvania UFO Bigfoot casebook. Um, he has a story about, you know, a woman who's sitting and watching TV and hears something out on the porch, thinks it's a feral dog, takes her shotgun and goes out, walks out on the porch, and there's a freaking 7 foot tall Bigfoot standing on the porch. And it throws its hands up like it's surprised to see her, and she thinks it's going to attack her. She shoots the thing, and it disappears in a flash of light. Now, physical beings don't do that, you
No,
know.
no, they don't.
So, so I'm definitely, I'm not arguing that there is not a supernatural element to this. Um, I'm arguing that it may be both. Because a lot of the sightings that you get are, it's if you, instead of Sasquatch, if you substituted in bear, it would sound exactly like somebody saw a bear in the woods, except that it was a large bipedal hominid or ape.
The thing that bugs me about it is all of these so-called Sasquatch hunters or researchers or weekend warriors, whatever you want to call them. They're not basing their belief that Sasquatch is flesh and blood or supernatural. They're not basing it on research. They are basing it on their opinion.
Right.
That's the danger. Like there's this guy in Vancouver. He runs around. His company's called Big Monkey Productions. Going to look for the British Columbia monkey. Like
Yeah.
it makes you sound like it's almost as dumb as people calling it Squatch.
Mhm.
Okay. Like the minute you start professing it's Squatch or monkey, I automatically know your research is bullshit. Pardon my language.
Mhm. Well,
Automatically know.
I mean, because you've got a situation where you have people who are dyed-in-wool scientific materialist types who can't accept that there's a supernatural element to this. So therefore, it doesn't exist. And you have people who are running databases of Bigfoot sightings that are actually throwing out uh, sighting reports because they don't meet the criteria that it's a physical being. There's somebody sees a UFO, they see anomalous lights, they see something that makes it a little quote woo, and goes right out the window. And
Well,
like I said, there
like
are
I've
no
argued with.
experts in this field.
Oh, I agree, and like I've argued with people, like you don't have to believe that Sasquatch is supernatural, but you can't judge your evidence or deny evidence like the BFRO because you don't want to believe it, or you've got science so shoved so far up your hiney that you're not thinking clearly.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't want to name names, but yeah, that's who I'm thinking of. If you read Tom Powell's book, The Locals, um, he talks about how they get these sightings where weird things would happen, and they just didn't put them in the database. They
Yeah.
just didn't investigate them. They didn't look at them at all. It's like, I'm
Yes.
sorry, if somebody tells me that they saw a UFO and that Sasquatch is beamed down from the UFO, then you got to follow up on that. You can't say, "Oh, well, that couldn't have possibly happened. You must be delusional." It's like those people that say, automatically say when you say that you saw something strange like a UFO or Sasquatch or whatever, "Oh, you were you drinking?"
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
what difference does that make? How many people do you know that actually have gotten so drunk they hallucinated? you know, it just doesn't
Oh, I
happen.
hear you.
It can dull
I
your
agree.
senses. It can dull your senses, but it certainly is not going to keep you from perceiving something.
And the thing is, We got about 20 seconds here before we're going to come back.
Okay.
The thing is, though, the majority of people who have those sightings are some of the most skeptical people of themselves. They've already questioned everything. Anyways, thank you to Louie, Pam, W. Decker, Louie again, Deb, Hugh, NorCal, can't even read my own writing, Juan, and Stephen for the super chats. Here we go, everyone. Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate earning your listening ears. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go. Author W.T. Watson is here. We're getting into the monster talk that makes us all happy, because who doesn't like talking monsters? Let's just be honest here. We all love it. W.T., a.k.a. Travis, welcome back.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be back because we're talking monsters, and that's always a good time. One of my favorite things.
Over your years of research, we all have those stories that stick out. Which one sticks out for you that you've investigated?
Oh, my goodness. Now, just to be clear, I don't spend as much time in the field as a lot of other people do. I am primarily a collector of stories. But some of the stories that I collected for instance, my book Mysteries in the Mist were personal accounts. One of my favorites, and this is veering off the Sasquatch topic completely, but one of my favorites is I had a friend when I was in my 20s, which was a long time ago, who was a diehard D&D guy. And he was goth before it was cool to be goth, right? With the black clothes, the black eyeliner, the whole schmear, right? The heavy metal and all that stuff. He was also a guy who was interested in the occult and the esoteric, and let's see, for one better term, he was fooling around with some things that maybe he shouldn't have been fooling around with. So just as setup, this old boy goes to bed one night, gets up in the middle of the night, and as you do, and is headed toward the kitchen to get a drink of water. There's a large mirror hanging in his hallway, and he actually looked in the mirror, and the surface of the mirror seemed to him to cloud over, to become misty or foggy, like inside the mirror. And he felt the strongest compunction to walk into the mirror. He finds out later. He doesn't really realize it at that time. His girlfriend, who fortunately for him was sleeping over that night, wakes up because she hears a sound and goes out into the hallway and finds him with his face plastered to this mirror. She tries to pull him away, and every time she lets go of him, he keeps going back to the mirror. He's trying to go into the mirror. she finally manages to pry him away and get him back to bed and tuck back up. So he had gone from a state of consciousness to a state of trance without really realizing it. And as he recounted it to me the next day, you know, he knew somehow that he was going to be able to walk into that mirror. Something was calling him from inside the mirror. And luckily for him, somebody was there to keep him from finding out if that was true or not. Now, was this a physical thing? Was there the possibility that a portal might open in his house and he just disappeared completely? Or was he having what some people would call an astral experience, where he was going to lose a part of himself into the mirror? Don't know. What I do know is he covered that mirror. He put away all those books that were questionable, and you know, pretty much reformed his life after that. So that's a favorite story. One of my favorite stories from the book is something that I collected from the Sasquatch Canada book that I collected. Was a story from the Alberta Sasquatch website of a Canadian Forces soldier. Guy was in special operations, a whole schmear, who was on training on a training operation in I think it was Wainwright, Alberta, in that area. He also had a specialization in electronics, apparently, and this was back in the day when there were no GPSs. It was in the 80s. So they were, or I guess GPS was probably a technology that wasn't commonly handheld. It was something they had for ships and stuff. So he and his partner were out, you know, in the forest looking for this piece of equipment they were supposed to repair, and all they had was a set of map coordinates. So they're driving along in their camouflage truck, and they stop. They spread the map out on the hood of the car. They're looking at the map. His partner is trying to figure out where they're supposed to go, and he's looking off down the way a little bit, looking at a fire break. And he sees a deer out there. He's like, "Oh, cool," because in addition to being, you know, a special operations person, he was also a hunter. If I remember right, he was a bow hunter. He's watching this deer, and as he watches, he sees a Sasquatch charge on all fours, come to 2 feet, hit this deer and snap its neck, sling it over its shoulder, and disappear in basically the blink of an eye. It happened so fast that he didn't even have a chance to say to his partner, "Hey, look at that Sasquatch," because it was there on boat. He described it as moving. He'd been to Africa. He described it as moving like a cheetah, you know, running down a gazelle. It was that fast. Now, when you think about a creature that is as big as a Sasquatch is supposed to be, moving that fast, that by itself is just scary as heck. You know, without, you know, any other considerations, that by itself is just scary as heck. You know, so, and again, I realize that kind of feeds into the whole physical aspect of it. But we also, from the supernatural aspect that we were talking about earlier, have stories from places like the Yukon where a gentleman was driving along the road, a road. I'm trying to remember. I think it was near Yellowknife. I don't remember the city. Sorry. Driving along the road, and as so often happens, sees a Sasquatch on the side of the road. There's a whole section in my book, Roadside Encounters, because they're so common. Sees a Sasquatch along the side of the road, but the weird thing about this is, as he watched this creature, it suddenly went transparent. He could see through it. And then as it moved along far, it disappeared completely from sight. It just vanished. Yeah, it didn't, camouflage itself in the woods or any of this kind because he had his eyes on it the whole time. It vanished. It disappeared. Now, that's not something a physical creature can do. Yeah.
No,
So
this
again,
I agree with you.
yeah.
Do you okay when you're collecting your stories? Are
Mhm.
you mainly looking for these close encounters that happen?
When I was doing this book, um, I was looking for visual sightings. Okay, so what the some of the people call Class A sightings, where somebody actually got eyes on one of these creatures. I'm intending to follow up with another book that's going to be more about what were called Class B sightings, or not sightings, more encounters, tracks, uh, uh, vocalizations, noises in the woods, stone throwing, that kind of stuff. Um, and I'm going to hit that from a maybe a little bit different angle than just Sasquatch is messing with you.
Very true. I can see that. I can totally see that. I can totally see that. Now, Dogman stories. Do we have a lot of these in Canada?
um, Let me think here. I know that I had a couple in Canadian Monsters and Mysteries, but that was a while back. I do know they're not. I haven't run across a ton of sightings in Canada, but honestly, I haven't researched deeply into the Dogman phenomena as I have Sasquatch for Canada. I suspect if you go digging, there's probably some dogmen, man wolf type sightings up here as well. I do know that the one encounter that Linda Godfrey described, somebody actually being injured, happened in Canada. It was in Quebec. Fellow was out hiking in one of the wilderness areas in Quebec, actually saw one of these creatures, and it ran down the path toward him and actually bumped him or shoved him out of the way. And apparently, according to him, the fang lacerated his hip as it was going by. So it almost strikes you as being an accidental injury, but he was treated at hospital for this thing, for this injury, and he told him he ran into a bear because he was going to tell him he saw a dog man. But so so I get a question up
Yeah, normally I take questions in hour two, but I'm going to get to this one right now.
here.
And it
Okay.
is Robo who is asking, do you think Sasquatch is benevolent or malevolent while being either paranormal and or gigantopithecus?
So this is my opinion. Okay, take it for what it's worth. But over the years of reading Sasquatch encounters and occasionally talking to people who've actually had Sasquatch encounters, I think it's very much the case that these beings have personalities, and that some Sasquatch are a whole lot more uh, um, amenable to human presence around them than others. I don't really like the benevolent, malevolent kind of dichotomy. Um, I think that they're kind of like people. Some people are more introverted and more likely to shove people away, while other people are more extroverted and likely to want to associate with people. Um, and I think there's definitely an aspect of territoriality. Okay, if you get too deeply into one of these critters' territory, they're going to see you out of it. Especially because I think most of the people who do research on these beings will agree that if you see one Sasquatch, there's probably another one around somewhere, and there may be a whole tribe of them around somewhere, a clan. I like to think of them as clans. If there's a young one in the area, that's going to invoke the same kind of protective response that we have toward our own young, or a bear, or any other fairly highly developed mammal, they're going to get you away from their kids. So, I mean, I think that uh, a lot of times, you could be standing 10 feet away from a Sasquatch and never know it, because they don't bother to make themselves known. Um, on the other hand, though, you could stray into the wrong territory and have them decide that you needed to be out of there, and they are very good at intimidating, Homo sapiens, and getting them the heck out of their territory if they need to.
Oh, yes.
So I
Know
hope
that
that
all too
answers the
well.
question.
Know that all too well. The idea, though, that after all these sightings, after all these years, there are no confirmations of people dying regarding these creatures. Have you ever had a case where a person has died allegedly at the hands of a Sasquatch or Dogman?
No, just plain and simple. No, I've not ever. I'm sure that there are. Okay, so again, let me back up. Sometimes my thoughts outrun my mouth here. I know that there are people out there that believe that Sasquatch are at least partially responsible for some of these mysterious appearances that happen in wilderness areas. I mean, you have cases like the Albert Osman case, which is a classic out of British Columbia, where this fellow alleges that he was, actually picked up and carried off by a Sasquatch and spent time with the Sasquatch clan. We have the legends of indigenous people, who seem to be kind of evenly divided about these creatures. Some of them view them as, guardians of the forest or even guardians of their tribe, whereas others, tell stories about them abducting women of the tribe, kidnapping children, engaging in cannibalistic behavior. And if you're going to go to the people, who might be experts on Sasquatch, I'd say that the indigenous folks would be the people to talk to, as they've been interacting with these beings for quite a lot longer than we have. So there is in my mind possibility that Sasquatch, if given the right motivation, might harm the human being. They're certainly capable of it. Anything that big, and built the way they are. I mean, everybody that ever, well, not everybody, but most of the people that have seen one of these creatures, particularly up here in the north, to describe them, it's one of the things everybody says. It's just massive. It was just so big that they couldn't get over it. They're certainly capable of doing human bodily harm, but I haven't run across any stories where anybody has actually, been harmed, or knows somebody that's been harmed or killed by Sasquatch. Or when you start talking about dogmen, and the man wolf, they are not nearly as shy, I guess, as most Sasquatch are. If you get into their territory, they're going to let you know about it. They seem to be a lot more surly and a lot more, in your face when you get into a sighting situation with those guys. I don't think I'd want to approach a man wolf up close and personal. They do engage in, again, that territorial behavior where they will charge somebody. As I said, though, the only documentation that I've seen of one actually harming somebody was that fellow in the back who got the graze injury to his hip as the thing went by. There's, of course, this story from land between the lakes in Kentucky of a man wolf actually killing family, but nobody's ever really produced solid evidence that happened. It's more in the nature of an urban legend. But again, you're talking about a large, powerful creature with, fangs and claws and so forth that, it certainly could do a human being harm. And again, if given the right motivation, the right reason, I don't see why it's not possible that could happen.
Well, you know what? I can see the possibility. All it takes is running into being in the wrong place at the wrong time, like you said earlier. If you run into an area where there's a youngster, I mean, you look at bears. Bears are usually pretty docile, but you bring the cubs into play, and Mama goes Mama Bear all too
Hmm.
well, all too quickly, and has no problem making sure you're dead. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Now,
it's the exact same way.
and think about, there is a certain subspecies of Sasquatch hunter that is literally hunting, these creatures. They're running around in the forest with guns. Um, I could see a situation where one of these guys ran into a Sasquatch, particularly a Sasquatch that was accompanied by a youngster. Um, where you have basically a self-defense situation where, the creature defended itself from, or its offspring from being harmed. Um, and I don't think you'd ever find that guy, because these
Oh,
creatures are
no.
large enough and powerful enough to where they could take somebody out. And again, like I said, in my mind, they tend to move in clans. They're large enough,
Agreed.
powerful enough to take somebody out and then just make you disappear into the woods. Um, so I don't like to sit around and cogitate about the horrible things that can happen to people, but we have to admit that it's a possibility.
Yeah, anything's a possibility. You have, dealt with stories right across North America, but focusing on Canada here, you know, is there a difference between the creatures that we hear of on the West Coast comparatively to the creatures in Ontario East?
Um, Not really. As I looked at Sasquatch encounters across Canada, because the book is titled Sasquatch Canada Beyond British Columbia, because when all of the people who write about Sasquatches in the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia, right? So I thought, well, I wonder if there are sightings in Canada. And there are a plethora of sightings in Canada. There's tons of them. I found sightings in every province except Nunavut. And I expect that has more to do with the sparse population and the reticence of the people who live there to talk about it than the fact that there's no Sasquatch up there. Or it may just be 'cause there's not enough cover for them. I don't know. But so they're all over. But I was surprised how uniform the descriptions were as you went across Canada. You know, you're describing a tall, dark, hairy, bipedal hominid slash ape, typically with no neck and a conical head. The very classic Sasquatch, with very little uh, variation in that appearance. Some Sasquatch are a little larger, some Sasquatch are a little smaller. There's the occasional sighting of something that could be a juvenile that's maybe 5 feet tall instead of 8 feet tall. Um, Sometimes these juveniles end up trees and stuff like that. But they seem very uniform across the Canadian provinces. Where you start to see derivations is when you start to move south. And you get into, like the Florida skunk ape territory, which seems to be a bit smaller, rangier creature than the Sasquatch of Canada and the Northwest. But like I said, across the provinces in Canada, very similar stories.
W.T. Davis, or pardon me, W.T. Watson, is our guest tonight on Space Down Radio. Sasquatch Canada Beyond British Columbia, his latest book. We're going to get more into some of the creepy tales around Canada. And the monster talk continues in hour number 2. Stay tuned. I got caught up in your story there, man. I did.
I keep running into the brakes.
That's okay. That's okay. We got about 6 minutes. I'm going to step away, take a quick break. I'm going to put you back in the green room here. Quickly here, let's say hello to people just coming in. Hi, Corey Cole. And who else is joining us here late? Hilton Whittlewood. How you doing, buddy? Nicole Sackage. Good to see you. And let's see who else we got here. Commonwealth Andrew. Nice to see you. Hi, Renee. Nice to have you back. See lots of people. Search and Destroy. Nice to see you. And we are caught up. All right. So, Trav, I'm going to put you in the back here like this. I will be right back. Stay tuned. All right. Pat Leal, how you doing? Good to see you. All right. Put these back on. We got just under a minute here, Travis.
Okay.
Good time so far. And anybody else come in that I didn't see? Margot, how you doing? And all right. My audience, when I take a break, always looks to see if any paranormal action happens. They're waiting for my chair to move. Yeah.
Could happen.
We've had weird things happen in this studio before, so it's not surprising if it does. Big thank you to Louie ×2, Maggie, Hugh, NorCal, Juan, and Steven, and Robo, and Deb, and W. Decker, and Pam. I am Pam, by the way. Hi, Thin Lizzie. And here we go, everyone.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Thank you so much for joining us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Jalusi. Jalusi is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. I want to remind everyone that coming up March 17th through 19th, I will be appearing at UFOCon 2023 in San Francisco, California. There's going to be some great speakers there, including Science Bob, Melinda Leslie, and so many more. I will be emceeing the event. I want to hang out with all of you, so I will have time because I'm MC, not speaker. And come on down. We'd love to have you all there. Go for your tickets at UFOCon2023.com. Our guest tonight, W.T. Watson. He has a great book because, you know what, he's skipping British Columbia on this one because we just have way too many Bigfoot sightings. Sasquatch Canada, Beyond British Columbia. Mr. Watson, welcome back.
Hello, hello. Glad back.
Good to have you here, my friend. You having fun yet?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're talking about weird things happening in the studio. I've had a couple of podcasts that I've been on where I was talking about Mysteries in the Mist, which was my second book. There's a few now, so I have trouble remembering sometimes. Where we'd be talking along about these strange phenomena that happen in mist, fog, and clouds, and the feed would just go dead. And they'd be like, are you still there? Are you still there? And you know, it would click on and off just randomly. A couple of the podcasts had to really edit their recording to make it sound like I was there the whole time, because I kept having technical, or they couldn't hear me. I'd be talking and they couldn't hear me. So I wouldn't be surprised. You know, these things happen.
When you look around across Canada, I mean, there are so many creatures, from the Rougarou to the Green Men to Little People to Bigfoot, Sasquatch, sea monsters, lake monsters, uh, the monsters of the Nahanni Valley up north in the
Mm.
Northwest Territories. I mean, there are so many legends that are out there. Does every province have a favorite one for you?
Um, I don't know that I would group them by province. I mean, some of my favorite things for Canada, when I did Canadian Monsters and Mysteries, um, just like Sasquatch, it seems like every lake in Canada has a lake monster. I collected any number of lake monster stories uh, from all over Canada, ranging from Okanagan all the way over to lake in Nova Scotia. Um, Seems too that you guys have more than your fair share of UFO sightings. Again, for Canadian Monsters and Mysteries, I did, kind of almost a province by province breakdown of some of the good stories there, including just really bizarre things like, giant UFOs hovering over hotels in Montreal and stuff like that. Um, but as far as there being like every province having its favorite monster, I wouldn't say that. Like I said, there are Sasquatch sightings all over Canada. Um, Again, lake monster sightings all over Canada. I'm sure if I went looking, started digging, I'll bet you that there's a number of dogmen slash man wolf sightings all over Canada. Um, Certain regions like to adopt, a particular cryptid. For instance, your area, British Columbia seems to assume that they're the only place that Sasquatches are seen. There's an area in British Columbia that calls itself the Sasquatch symbol of the world or whatever. Um, but again, these phenomena seem to uh, paint a broad swath across the entire country. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that there's so much wilderness area here, plenty of places for these weird things to happen. And when you start talking ghosts and hauntings, when I was doing Canadian Monsters and Mysteries, I had to kind of group out Sasquatch sightings because there's so many of them, and I had to group out all the hauntings and so forth, except for things like spontaneous fires starting and stuff like that. But a lot of the haunting stories, because Canada is just loaded with them. Um, Again, I may end up writing a book about Canadian hauntings at some point, but I haven't gotten there yet.
Well,
Um,
let me ask you. Let me cut you off right there and ask you,
sure.
in your opinion, what is the most haunted area of Canada?
Oh gosh, I didn't really have a chance to do extensive research in hauntings. Um, but I certainly did find a significant number of hauntings in the southern Ontario region where I live. There's all the different forts and so forth that have haunting stories. But I wouldn't put myself forward as a Canadian haunting expert, not yet. I haven't had a chance to really dig into it yet.
I'll tell you, a book that is needed. I'll even tip you off to this one. Is
Okay.
the haunted Gold Rush Trail,
Okay. I'll have to look
and
into that.
And I live like 3/4 of a mile from the trail, and that trail is haunted as anything.
Oh yeah. So
Oh
have you
yeah,
had experiences there?
many experiences along the
Okay.
trail, and they're very well known. And the trail goes up for probably 400 kilometers, 500 kilometers of haunted.
Hmm. Okay. So I
It's
can interview
amazing.
you for the book, right?
There's a lot of people you can interview. A lot of
I'm
people you
sure.
can interview. But I got a couple of audience questions here. Let's get to
Sure.
Raz here. Sasquatch have varying factions that may not have come to consensus with humans yet. What's your thoughts?
I don't know that it's so much varying factions. Like I said, in my opinion, and again, when we talk about Sasquatch, nobody's an expert. Okay, in my opinion, from looking at all the different stories, across Canada and all of the things that I've read about Sasquatch in the U.S., and even Yeti in the Himalayas. My opinion is that it has more to do with the Sasquatch personality, individual personalities, how they deal with humans, not so much, tribal or clan variances. Now, it's possible that, a clan of Sasquatch, one member of that group may have had a bad experience and passed it on to other Sasquatches so that they're more leery of human beings. But my feeling is that mostly we're talking about, because we're talking about a creature that displays, if not human level, close to human level intelligence. So if they've had a bad experience with people, people with firearms and so forth, I'm sure they pass it on to their fellows. And there may be groups of Sasquatch that don't care a whole lot for human beings because of those experiences. But factions, I don't know that we could say factions, because factions implies that that Sasquatches kind of get together in a big group and decide. There's one section of Sasquatches that decide they don't like people, and another do people, and so forth. I'd say it's probably more of a local phenomenon.
Very true. Let's get to another question from Hilton here. What's your most bizarre encounter you've had?
Now, I haven't had a personal Sasquatch encounter. Other than, like I said, the strange noises in the woods, close to the house where I used to live. So I forgot about one. One of those was actually, there was something out in the woods that was running along, making a sound that, if you've ever watched Jurassic Park, the raptors on Jurassic Park made a sound very similar to that. Now, I have no idea what that was, but it scared my stepson so bad he went back in the house. I have a theory that it might have been a northern hawk owl, because that's about the closest thing I could find as far as birds, because it was moving from tree to tree, whatever it was. But I don't know. As far as bizarre encounters go, there's a whole section of Sasquatch Canada that's actually entitled Strange Things. And in that section, you have Sasquatches disappearing in front of people. You have, let's see. Those are the ones that leap to mind. Is the vanishing Sasquatches are the ones that really mess with people. You also have Sasquatches that are associated with anomalous lights, and those sorts of phenomena. There's, as I've said repeatedly throughout the course of this interview, there are lots of indications that Sasquatch is something more than a physical creature. Another thing, probably one of the really interesting ones from the Stranger Things section was young man. I think again this was in Alberta. They seem to have, there were a lot of sightings in Alberta. They had gone to a local park to basically cool off. It was August, and had been swimming in the river. This person, the witness was actually a child at the time that this happened. But they decided that they were going to, get out of the river and go and have lunch. And so, this young boy being, he's probably 11 or 12, being full of piss and vinegar, decides that, you know, he wants to be the first person at the campsite because he wants his hot dog now, right? He's flying up the path, and the first indication that there's something weird going on is that he had that smell. You know, he described it as, if I remember right, he describes it as like a freshly washed dog that had been rolling in the mud for a week, or been rolling in poo for a week. That stopped him, and then he looks over to his right, if I remember correctly, and he sees this creature squatting next to a berry bush. Now, just to give you an idea how large this creature was, it's squatting, so its butt is basically on the ground or pretty close to the ground. And he said that it was still 5 feet high and easily 4 feet across. So this being was huge. It was quite large. So he's looking at this thing and he's like, I had no idea what I was looking at. He'd never heard of a Sasquatch, didn't know what a Sasquatch was. He knew what a bear was, but this wasn't a bear. He had no idea what he was looking at. So he's thinking to himself, what am I looking at? And he hears in his mind, you don't see me, I'm not here. And he's like, what? So he's like, what am I looking at? And again, he hears in his mind, you don't see me, I'm not here. And then he's like, okay, you know, obviously I do see you, I'm looking at you. And so this creature stands up, which of course scared the bejeebies out of him. And he is suddenly seized with the thought that he needs to get out of there, which he does. He beats feet. He heads off toward his campsite, and the creature heads off toward a creek off in the other direction, and that's the last he sees of it. He gets back to his campsite, to the place where they're all doing their picnic, and he's like, I saw the weirdest thing in the woods. And they're all, of course, because everybody, it seems like everybody, when you tell them that you saw a Sasquatch in the Canadian woods, the first thing they say is, you saw a bear. This kid's
True.
like, no, that was no bear. That was no bear. I know what a bear looks like. That was not a bear. This thing was standing on 2 legs, and you know, it had arms and shoulders, and you know, he's describing the thing. They're finally like, oh well, you know, they start teasing him, he must have seen a Sasquatch. He's like, what the hell? What's a Sasquatch? So they tell him, you know, what a Sasquatch is. He's, yeah, that's what I saw. But this thing actually spoke to him in his mind, which to me was one of the weirder stories in the book. So a little telepathy going on there. And you got to wonder too if some people aren't susceptible to this telepathic, this mind speak thing, and they actually, you know, end up not remembering seeing these creatures. You know, if you know, maybe the thing connects with them, and it just basically, you know, you don't see me, I'm not here. It's like a cloak. This kid, for whatever reason, was resistant to that, or seems to be resistant to that. But if it works, you know, how many people have actually had sightings and don't remember it?
No, very true. Absolutely true. Let's get to another question from our audience here for you tonight. This one comes from Search and Destroy. What is the possible population size of Bigfoot? Maybe we don't know.
We have no
Impossible
idea.
question.
You know, there are, you know, I mean, there have been people who have projected numbers, but I don't think you can. I don't see a way that you can conjecture about population size of a creature that you can't even prove exists yet. You know, because yes, there are sightings all across Canada. You know, obviously there's tons of sightings in British Columbia, so there's probably a good sized population there. There's lots of sightings in Alberta, Manitoba, Ontario, Northern Ontario. You know, so you can conjecture that there are a good sized population there. Putting a number on it, how would you do that? I mean, seriously, it's not like we can go out in the woods and find these creatures and count heads, because it seems like everybody that goes looking for them has trouble finding them. So I wouldn't even try to put a size on it. I think that the creatures are pretty rare, but I don't know, if we got a total head count, U.S., Canada, so forth, if they count as an endangered species or not. I suspect they might, because I don't think there's huge numbers of them. Otherwise, more people would be seeing them. But I couldn't answer, what the population would be.
All right, let's continue on here. So we got about 3.5 minutes. Hugh Mann is asking, is Dogman and Sasquatch related?
I don't think so. I know that there's been I was following up on a Dogman sighting in Pennsylvania when I lived in the States. And I emailed a researcher who assured me that this witness didn't see a Dogman, that it was actually a Sasquatch. I was like, okay, this witness describes seeing a bipedal canid with a snout and pointy ears. There is nothing in Sasquatch lore that looks like that. That's a Dogman. So, there are people who would like to say that, the people who are seeing Dogmen are actually seeing a variation of the Sasquatch that has a snout. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, but I just don't buy it. Now I understand that there may be some variation in the way that Sasquatch look. There seem to be Sasquatch that are more human looking and Sasquatch that are more ape looking. And it just depends on who the witness is and what they see as to what kind of a description you get there. But I haven't seen any descriptions of Sasquatch as having a snout, like a German Shepherd or a wolf, and I certainly haven't seen any Sasquatch descriptions that had pointed ears sticking up from the tops of their heads. Again, like a German Shepherd or a wolf. This is the thing that really, and when you look at Dogman descriptions, the man wolf tends to be a little shorter than Sasquatch, and leaner, I guess would be the way to put it. Now, again, it is a large, powerful creature, but it doesn't have the sheer mass of a Sasquatch, according to the witness that has seen them. I think the top height I've ever seen for a Dogman report was something like 7 feet. They usually run around the 6 foot range, and there may be individuals that are taller than that. And I'm certain that there probably is. But, from having read pretty widely in the Dogman literature for down in the States and then the Sasquatch literature all over, I don't think they're related. I think we have two different things that are prowling around the forest. And, when you start talking about Dogman 2, you have to wonder, given the prevalence of werewolf lore, were creature lore throughout the world, you have to wonder, if this being isn't a more, the Dogman, man-wolf is not definitely a more supernatural type of creature. Sasquatch seems to have a very physical nature.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we have W.T. Watson, author extraordinaire, best-selling author on Amazon. You can find his latest book, Sasquatch Canada Beyond British Columbia, on Amazon right now. We got up till the top of the hour. Fast show so far tonight. We'll be right back with more Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned. All right, we are clear.
Okay. Whew.
Flying on by tonight, man.
Fast and Furious. Yep. I've always been, amazed at how quickly these shows go by. It's like an hour podcast recording takes, it seems like no time at all. But it's always I love. I've had the opportunity to be on live streams with podcasters too, and I love it when you get questions from the audience, because it's like you never know what people are going to ask.
Oh yeah, I hear you there, man. Hear you there.
Yeah, because I mean, there's just so much to. There's so much to look at when you look at any of these phenomena. It's like I said, if you get going on UFOs, for instance, I mean, you're more of an expert in that than I am, but just the sheer mass of witness testimony, all the different things that people see, and all the different physical effects that happen to people, and the psychological effects that happen to people, and so on and so on and so on. I mean, it can be a life's work in and of itself. I'm more of a journalist, I guess. Since I enjoy it all, I like to read about it all. So it just I'm watching some of the stuff in the comments here. It's like, okay.
They're cruising.
Yeah,
they are cruising.
Just going to town here, talking about skinwalkers and stuff. That's another animal altogether.
Oh yeah.
I used to live in skinwalker country, so that's interesting. There's a counter for you. I always forget about this until I start talking about Arizona. I actually had a very brief encounter on reservation in Arizona. It's a creature that looked a whole lot like. Do you know what a cocopelli is?
No.
It's one of the native gods. I forget which tribe it comes from, but I saw something that looked remarkably like a cocopelli out in the desert. I was going to do a lecture on a native reserve down in Arizona.
And what is a cocopelli?
Yeah, it's one of the indigenous gods. It's a flute player. I don't know much more about it than that, but it's a very strange looking critter that was, kind of dancing around a sage bush as I was, driving around on this, reservation.
Yeah, I've seen that guy before.
Yep.
Not physically, but like on social media.
Mm-hmm.
We got about 90 seconds.
Yeah, the one thing about that encounter was I have no idea. It was just completely random because I wasn't thinking about anything like that. I mean, I'd lived down that area for a while. I knew what it was, but I mean, okay.
Right.
It's one of the things about these phenomena that's so interesting, is that they can be so random. Yeah. You're talking about skeptics. It always makes me laugh when you get somebody who's just like, oh, that stuff doesn't exist, and then they see a Sasquatch, or they have a ghost encounter, or they, they run into a dog man or they see a UFO or something like, it's like I was talking about earlier. It really shakes the paradigm, and makes people, more open to, um, just more open. It opens their minds a little bit, I think.
Oh, I would agree with you. Hold on one second here. Big thank you to Hugh once again, ×2, Louis ×3, Thomas, Maggie, Robo, Stephen, Juan, and NorCal, Pam, W. Decker, and Deb for the super chats. Really love it. Come see me in San Francisco, March 17th to 19th for UFO Con. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate it. I want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Here we go, final half hour with author W.T. Watson. He's an Amazon award-winning author. Brand new book out called Sasquatch Canada, Beyond British Columbia, because he's biased against British Columbia. Let's just face it. He's biased. We got too many monsters over here, and he's jealous because he lives in Ontario.
I think I could have written a whole book about British Columbia Sasquatch.
Nah, very true. Very true. I'm just teasing. We're going to continue with some audience questions here for you because they are continuing to build up for you, Travis, here.
Sure.
So let's get right to it. And let's go to human. Oh, we already asked that one. Let's go to Raz, pardon me. Do you think that Sasquatch or Dogman have a dominance hierarchy?
It seems that, again, the sample size is such that it's hard to say, okay? Because the vast majority of Sasquatch sightings are single individuals. As I've said, I suspect that if you see one Sasquatch, there's one around somewhere else in your neighborhood, because they are crafty. They're quite stealthy. What a lot of researchers think, and I'm inclined to agree, just from some of the stories that I've read, is that Sasquatch travel in small family groups or clans. And there's generally a male, female, maybe some younger ones. So I don't know that it's some dominance hierarchy as it is a family group. And a larger male that's kind of like gorillas do, where you have a larger male that's taking care of a group or family group, helping to feed them, defending them, et cetera, et cetera. So not so much dominance, but more of a family group. Now, when you're talking, if you want to talk about dogmen, I rather suspect, and again, this is more my opinion than anything else, but I rather suspect that a wolf-like creature is going to have more of a dominance hierarchy, because that's kind of how dog packs work. Now, again, most of the sightings that I've seen of dog have been single individuals. But I can think of at least one where there was a group that was sighted next to a creek, having a drink, and the witnesses beat feet back to their car and got out of there. But I rather suspect that dogmen tend to run in packs, and so there would be probably an alpha kind of individual or individuals in that pack structure. And that's really just my extension from canid behavior, because that's pretty much how because we see a lot of the kind of territorial canine behavior from Dogman. So I'm kind of cross-referencing there and thinking that's probably how they kind of the social structure that they have.
All right, let's move on here. Let's go to Deb. Do Sasquatch like music?
I have no idea. One thing that we do know about Sasquatch is that individuals, at least, are pretty curious. There's a story in my book about it actually comes from a UFO journal, where they talked to an RCMP detachment, and the RCMP officers were they were given a report from a group of indigenous people that were living, out in the outback. They were having problems with these creatures coming and peeking in their windows. It's like basically the RCMP is like, "What do you want us to do about this? Even if we could catch one, what are we going to do with it?" So they like to peep in windows. There's been I've seen some researchers who say that they like to play music or whatever in their camps to try and get the curious Sasquatches to come in and take a look at them. I don't know how effective that is. When you ask if a Sasquatch likes music, then I think we're kind of anthropomorphizing these creatures. I don't know that they're, they may be a hominid type creature, but even if they are, their social structure and their personalities and so forth would be completely unique to them, and they're not going to have had a whole lot of exposure to music unless they come and have exposure to it around human beings. I'm sure that there are probably some sounds that they like more than others, but I couldn't tell you what kind of jam Sasquatch like to listen to.
Yeah, I find it's more heavy metal.
Okay.
No, I'm just teasing because I'm a heavy metal guy.
I'd buy that.
All right, let's go to Brown Dwarf. And he's asking, what are your thoughts on stick structures?
So I didn't talk a whole lot about stick structures in the book, because I'm kind of saving that for, basically book 2 in the series. We have a whole series of phenomena in the woods that have been associated to Sasquatch. Stick structures, footprints, vocalizations, stone throwing, all of those kinds of things. Now, nobody's been able to explain why a creature the size of a Sasquatch would feel the need to make a stick structure, because it's obviously not a shelter, which is something that some people have conjectured. Some folks have speculated that they be territorial markers. Some folks have speculated that they might be territorial markers, or they might be directional pointers, navigational aids, so to speak. Any of that could be possible. I tend to think that, and this is where I really separate from the flesh and blood researchers. I tend to think that there's something stranger going on out in the woods that's causing some, not all, but some of these kind of mass B phenomena that are happening. There's
may I interrupt there for a quick second?
Sure.
portals, different dimensions?
Okay.
Do you
Let
think?
me
Do you think it could be either of those?
let me back up to that, or come around to that. What I was going to say is that my thought is that, if you, and this is not a thought original to me, Sarai Ascath, Tim Renner, and some other folks in the U.S., some podcasters in the U.S. have conjectured that it took all of the phenomena that are associated with Sasquatch out in the woods, and you put it in the house, what you'd have is a poltergeist. Okay, so my thinking about stick structures and footprints and vocalizations and all of these kind of things, there may be something a whole lot weirder going on in the forest than just Sasquatches. But if it is a Sasquatch doing these things, then, conjectures are as applicable as anything. It could be a navigational marker. It could be any of the kinds of things that I mentioned previously. Now, if you go to the whole portal idea, John Keel called them window areas, portals. In my book, I have to get another dig in, right?
Of course,
in
go
my
for
book, in my book, Phantom Black Dogs, Walkers of the Liminal Way, I talk about, and in Mysteries of the Mist, I talk about this idea of window areas, of portals. I talk about the idea that these things may be becoming, these openings into the other world or out of the other world, be more common now than they were, just because there are more people out there that are fooling with opening those ways. If you walk into any of the large big box bookstores now, and some of the smaller independent bookstores, you can find a whole section of things on occult, Wicca, ceremonial magic, all these kinds of things. All of these books will teach you ways, some better and some worse, to open, for want of a better word, a portal or open a way to another world. And if you're doing, for instance, spirit evocation, you're calling things through that portal, and sometimes into manifestation. So you have a whole lot of people now that are experimenting with these things. And if you know anything about magical lore, there's a proper way to open a way and a proper way to close a way. The problem is that we have a whole bunch of people who are experimenting with these things who maybe aren't practicing good hygiene and aren't closing their ways behind them. They just walk off and leave it. So, I think that it's entirely possible that some of these, portals account for missing persons. I think it's also possible that some of these portals are creating, some of your strange stick structures out there. Because if you have an energetic release in the forest, who knows what it's going to do? Some of these stick structures look suspiciously like stargates. So,
very true.
It's
all up to a lot of imagination if they're not real, man.
Yeah, exactly. So when you talk about stick structures and you get into the portals and you get into the more arcane ideas in the paranormal, you can get really woo really quick. And I don't like to say, oh, well, this is the way things are. But I've also, from my personal experience and from the experience of people that I know in the magical community, you start to do some of these things and some pretty weird stuff can happen. So I know a fellow who was a Wiccan priest who was doing a wedding, doing what they call a wedding. It's a hand fasting to them.
Right.
In Arizona, in it wasn't high summer, but it was probably the autumnal season, which is still 80 or 90 degrees outside and clear, right? Uh, opened the circle for this hand fasting, and suddenly got fog off the river they were standing next to in the middle of the day. That fog, from my work in Mysteries in the Mist, that fog can represent a portal. So fog, mist, that kind of stuff can represent a way into the other world. So, you can get into some really interesting stuff when you start looking at that kind of thing.
Very true. Very true. Let's get to another question here. This one comes from David Lopez. How common are aggressive encounters with Sasquatch?
Oh, that's a tough one. Most of the encounters that I have seen in Canada have been, like I said, if you read the book, a lot of these encounters are basically like any other wildlife sighting. I was down by the river fishing, and I looked across the river, and there was this Sasquatch. Or I was out in the woods hunting. I looked up, and there was this Sasquatch. So typically, most encounters are not aggressive, or at least the ones that I've seen and researched. However, like I said, there seem to be some Sasquatch that are not particularly happy with people. Don't want to be around people, and will chase them out of their areas. They're Sasquatch. They have territories that they don't want people to get too close to. If I had to put a number to it, just from my research, maybe 10 to 20% are encounters that people might count as aggressive. And even in those encounters, most of the time, it's not so much the Sasquatch is running after somebody or chasing them or whatever. It's that sheer unreasoned terror that descends on people that makes them want to get the heck out of there. And there are people. I saw somebody flash up here about infrasound. There are some folks, some Sasquatch researchers, that believe that unreasoning terror may be a result of infrasound. I'm not so sure. In some ways, it's like the flesh and blood researchers keep adding all these things to the Sasquatch's, capabilities. It's kind of like, if this creature is capable of doing all the things that these guys are saying it can do, it's basically a superhero. Why can't we accept that there may be a supernatural component here?
I'm very true. Very true. But, for some reason, I call it the Caucasian scientific background that we don't want to abide by when it comes to First Nations legends. And yet, where would we be without those stories initially?
Yeah, where would we be without, First Nations culture in general? I mean, if you look at the U.S. Constitution, it has a very strong influence from Seneca. What's the tribe? Algonquin laws that were in effect long before European settlers got there. But back to the question. As far as aggressive encounters go, they're not the majority of the cases that I looked at. Like I said, maybe 10 or 20%, and the vast majority of those are simply that unreasoning terror that descends on people and makes them want to get the heck out of there. That there seems to be some stone throwing and those kinds of things that happen too. That tell people, hey, maybe you should move your campsite somewhere else.
Let's go to Eric. Could it be shamanic, as in these creatures? And did we learn it from them, or did they learn it from us?
When you say shamanic, um, so shamanism is a spiritual path that reaches back tens of thousands of years. Do I think that? So I guess the best example of shaman cultures in North America would be your indigenous folks, and the indigenous people definitely believe. All of the tribes that I looked at had some word for these creatures. The indigenous people seem to believe, for the most part, that the Sasquatch is a world walker.
Yes.
It has a spiritual aspect, and then it is capable of moving from that spiritual realm, other world, into our realm and assuming a physical form. In esoteric lore or magical lore, we have a similar idea that there are creatures in the other world that have a capability of moving through what's called the etheric realm and gathering substance from the etheric and manifesting physically in our world. Same kind of idea. So shamanic or magical, either one. It's kind of the theory I hold to most when I think about Sasquatch, because it explains a lot. It's like, why can we not find one of these creatures? Because they can literally walk right out of reality if they want to. Now, I know
Well,
a lot of people won't buy that.
To find a left track, left, right, and so on and so forth. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, we have any number of track, single tracks. It's like, okay, well, if you do tracking, that doesn't typically happen. And yes, I have Manly Hall and a lot of other stuff. I was looking at comments, sorry. But you also have, a number of trackways that will go out into the middle of a cornfield and disappear. Now, the flesh and blood researchers have a heck of a time with those things. They try to explain, well, they left across to this other area. It's like, okay, again, why are we making this creature a superhero? Why not just admit that there's something weird going on here? But as far as did we learn it from them or did they learn it from us, human beings have been doing shamanic work for literally thousands of years. I think that the Sasquatch, if I had to put my money into a particular pot, I think that the Sasquatch is actually a creature of the other world that also can exist in our world. So it's shamanic in that aspect of being able to walk between worlds. I hope that answers the question.
We have 90 seconds left with you tonight, W.T. Watson. I want to say a big thank you. We got to do this again. This was fun.
Oh, absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
apologize. I apologize to everybody's questions who we did get to bring them up next time we have them on, and we will get to them. Tell everybody where they can find your books.
Okay, so again, just to reiterate, my name is Travis, but I write under W.T. Watson, and you can find all of my books. There's 4 of them now on Amazon. They're available as a paperback, and they're also available as an ebook. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free. So what more could you ask for, right?
Very true.
As far as interacting with me, I'm on all the social media platforms too. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So.
Well, it was a pleasure getting to know you tonight, and I cannot wait to get you back on because it's going to be a lot of fun again, and you got a lot of interesting stories to share with us like you did tonight. Travis, thank you so much for coming on Spaced Out Radio. Very much a pleasure to have you here.
It was a blast. As I was telling you on the book, I really enjoy these opportunities to interact with people and think about questions.
Excellent. And all his books over on Amazon under W.T. Watson. Coming up next, we're going to head to the swamp. Then our resident Timbit, little Timmy Senor, will be here for the UFO report. We'll be back with hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio right after this. All right, we are clear, my friend. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. That's fun. Like I said, I really do enjoy these opportunities to interact with people, and you never know what people are going to ask. It's just so much fun to actually. It's so much fun to actually have a chance to interact with the people who either are readers or could be readers. I really appreciate you having me on.
All right, we'll do it again soon, my friend. You take care.
Okay. All right. Take care. Have a good night.
Bye. W.T. Watson. Great guy. Great guy. All right. I will be right back. Timmy, do you want to come in early or do you want to wait? No, Timmy's eating a buttercup right now. Be right back. I am back. Oh, yes. Gandalf from Croatia. Right on. Once I get it up, I get to put my map here. Once I get my map up here, I get to put Croatia on there. Raz, it's always funny when you do squeaky farts during live broadcasts of hockey games. Yeah. $20. Thank you to our super chatters tonight. Robo ×2. Gandalf, Vaughn, Hugh, Louie, Thomas, Maggie, Robo again, Stephen, Juan, NorCal, Hugh, Deb, Louie, W. Decker, Pam, and Louie again. Here we go, everyone. Let's do this thing.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We very much appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on Odyssey Radio, TalkStream Live, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us, Clam? Jalousie. Jalousie is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is time once again to head to the swamp. Our resident swamp dweller takes us on another spooky journey.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. So this event happened to me about an hour ago at a park near where I live. At around 11:30 p.m. on July 12th, 4 friends and I played Sardines at a park near us. Sardines is a game similar to hide and seek where there is one hider and the rest are seekers. However, once a seeker finds a hider, they hide with them as the remaining players continue to seek, and the game only ends once everyone has seen the initial hider. We played this game in a semi-forested area called Wego Park. It was pitch black except for the bright full moon. Between 11:30 to 12, we played about 2 games. The first game went great, with each of us adjusting to the new environment and competition. However, it was pretty creepy even before what happened next. The second game started fine. However, it became more disturbing as 2 friends and I were grouped, trying to find the hider. I, along with them, moved very slowly to avoid crunching on leaves or stomping on grass, to hear for possible hiders. And soon enough, one after another, we all heard something. I was the first person to hear anything. I quickly split off to find a quiet spot to hear something again, and very soon I heard a rustling in the bushes from a small concrete pathway that went through the park. The brush was up against a wooden fence that was the border of someone's backyard, I do believe. So, when I heard rustling coming through, I stood still to see if it was just an animal or if it was my friends who had initially hidden in the bush. A few seconds later, I heard a whispering from that same bush. So in a goofy moment, I rushed towards the bush, saying, "I hear you," to see if I could scare whoever may be in the bush. but my friends did not respond. I started walking away when I heard a whisper again. However, this time I understood what it said. Whoever was in the bush was repeating, "I hear you," back to me, but it just sounded wrong. As soon as I heard this, I returned to the small group of friends still seeking and told them about what had just happened. Their response shocked me even more. One of them said that earlier, when they were seeking alone, they saw a pair of legs sticking out of the same bush and heard rustling. After all of us talked about the eeriness of the bush, we slowly walked back to the base, a tree on the other side of the park. We soon found the hiders and told them what had happened to us. They were hiding far away from the bush, across the park from the bush to be more precise. We were getting things ready to go when the same friend from earlier noticed a flashlight or a phone flashlight shine from where the bush was. Naturally, this freaked all of us out. Heading back home, we were all trying to comprehend what had happened near the frontier. Suppose it was some homeless guy or just an animal, even though it responded to me yelling at it. Whatever it was, I really hope I never experience it again when we're back at that park playing.
And that's why we love the Swamp Dweller around here. He takes us on spooky journeys every Monday through Friday night here on Spaced Out Radio. If you want to hear more of those stories, head on over to his YouTube channel, youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads. He's got thousands of stories just like that for you. And once again, they are all free. From the swamp to the stars. Let's bring in our resident Timbit, little Timmy Senor in the UFO report.
Nobody's gonna know.
They're gonna know.
My friend, how you doing tonight? I mean, what a wild few days here in the UFO world. I mean, from criminals to government contracts to trying to sneak into the government to everything in between. Man, I'm worn out of UFOs, man. I'm worn out.
It has been a really busy week. I haven't stopped taking calls all week. It's been super busy, and we've had a lot of ups and downs, and our audience has been super supportive. And this was definitely an amazing week for podcasters, in just that we've really covered the news and been a part of it and been able to change for the better in lots of ways. So fantastic week. Yeah.
It really has. And I don't recall a week as controversial as this one. I really do not recall. And I'm glad some of it is over. I am glad that we're moving on. But breaking news today again. Breaking news today. I mean, when does this end, man?
Yeah. Well, hopefully it doesn't, because,
True.
let's ride this wave as long as we can and be happy that we have so much movement on this topic. But since you're so close to this one, I would love it if you would just kick off the UFO news for tonight, if you don't mind. Are you okay with that?
I'm very good with that. And I'm going to tell you, I almost did a full Dave 101 on this as a sidebar to this show, because this really upsets me. And I don't know why it grinds my gears, but Tim, Mufon just doesn't seem to get it. And next week, we're going to have Bob Spearing on from Mufon, and I'm going to ask him about this. Okay, but you have to remember there is a giant split between the Mufon board of directors and then the state directors are the people who actually conduct the investigations. And this is where it gets a little strange for me, because 50 plus years ago, when Mufon came out, okay, Project Blue Book was going on. There were a number of secret talks going on and people trying to learn about UFOs. And Mufon really started as a group for the people, to try and be the watchdog for the people when it comes to UFOs and the experiences people were having. Fast forward 50 some years, and now they're trying to get into bed with the government. So I'm going to read this to you, Tim, and we're going to take some time on this. Okay. If you're looking for it, I put it out on our Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. This is the director's message. This is from David McDonald. And he goes, or it's titled, Mufon Faces an Interesting 2023. Well, folks, another year is in the books. It is true that time flies, and the older I get, the faster it flies. We saw some amazing advances this year. The CMS has undergone a major overhaul, as has Mufon University, and the overhaul is ongoing. Our research and investigation facilities have technologically advanced to the point that we are darn near at cutting edge. And this is where it gets a little controversial for me. One of the most exciting projects of the year is Mufon being recognized by the United States government as a leader in UFO/UAP investigations. In fact, it has been nominated to be the civilian component on the currently developing UAP panel. This nomination is totally bipartisan and has been introduced in both the House and Senate. It is over 100 signatures so far. Below is a copy of the letter of resolution from the Honorable Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, Department of Defense, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, 1400 Defense Pentagon, Washington, D.C., 20301. Dear Dr. Kirkpatrick, we are writing to request that you give full consideration to the Mutual UFO Network to serve as a civilian component on the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Task Force. For 53 years, Mufon has gathered and investigated reports of UAP worldwide. No, they've investigated UFOs, not UAP. Averaging 10,000 to 12,000 sightings per month. The organization uses scientists, photographers, and forensics experts to investigate each UAP and can prove that 92% of the events are explainable. Over the past few decades, they have had various contractual relationships with the DoD to provide information to the ATIP program regarding sightings of interest. Their network includes over 5,000 members, 650 trained investigators, and organizations in 48 countries. We understand that the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Task Force was established by an amendment to the 2021 NDAA sponsored by Senator Kristen Gillibrand. Under this amendment, the task force has the following duties: developing procedures to synchronize and standardize the collection, reporting, and analysis of incidents, developing processes and procedures to ensure that such incidents from each component of the department and each element of the intelligence community are reporting and incorporated in a centralized repository, establish procedures to require the timely and consistent reporting of such incidents, evaluating links between unidentified aerial phenomena and adversarial foreign governments, consulting with other departments and agencies of the federal government and partners of the United States, and preparing reports for Congress. We recommend that MUFON be selected as one of the non-state actors as they interact with multiple stakeholders worldwide and have a large database to share. In addition to this, MUFON was formally requested to provide monthly and quarterly statistical reports to selected departments, which reports will provide a clear insight into the scope of the UFO UAP phenomena. This is an incredible way to start the year, McDonald says. Thanks to every one of you and all of us at MUFON, wishing you a happiest of New Year's. See the problem here, Tim?
Oh, yeah.
MUFON has officially and publicly sold out.
Well, there's a lot of moving parts here, and I've made some notes before and during you reading this. And I'd love to just kind of hit you with some of my broad strokes here. So right off the top, we have that MUFON is wanting to become the civilian component to Arrow. I'm wondering if this letter kind of that we have directly to Dr. Kirkpatrick was made first and we're getting in response their acceptance into it, or is this just per the request at this point? And also, it's is it because of its reports that it has already been requested to be making of the quarterly statistical reports? Is it because of those reports that now MUFON is feeling that it is obliged potentially to take on the civilian component? And is this also a public demonstration of a way to initiate funding from the government for
Well,
its potential interaction?
this is what I've known from talking to a couple of MUFON members today who are literally looking at leaving the organization. Okay, and these are long-time members. They are upset. MUFON's mantra is to be the voice of the people, to be non-governmental, to be a group that overlooks everything the government is doing as a watchdog for this phenomena. But Dave McDonald, their executive director, who received the job, okay, after Jan Harzan was arrested for his antics that we're not going to get into. He's always wanted to be a part of the government process. That is not what MUFON is about. MUFON is supposed to be for the people. Why would you or anybody now give a report to MUFON knowing that your report that you have filed privately is going to get into the hands of the United States government? Now, there's a lot of people who will sit there and say MUFON sold out a long time ago, and we know they've tried to. They did with Robert Bigelow in 2007. Okay, we know when the To the Stars Academy came out, Jan Harzan was begging and pleading to get some recognition from the TTSA. It didn't work then, but now it's working. I think it's disgusting. MUFON has gone against the grain of everything that they stand for to play in the government puddle of UFOs. They could have made, if they had a proper PR department that actually knew how the media works, they would have made a lot of news the last 5 years. But MUFON has always had a problem. Every time that they get in trouble with something, they sweep it under the rug. They have this attitude that if we don't talk about it, it never happened. The Jan Harzan incident, the John Ventry racism incident, selling files to Robert Bigelow, a private corporation, in exchange for money, which they never got all their money. And now this. I don't know why anybody would want to swim in MUFON's pool now. And I do know right now that there are a couple of states with very powerful people who are going to be reviewing their options. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'll say it out loud right now. The entire board of directors, if they supported this for MUFON, need to resign. And members of MUFON, and I know there are a number who listen to this show, you need to write a letter to MUFON's board of directors asking for their resignations. You've paid to be in MUFON. You've paid to be trained. You've paid to be an investigator or a state director. And this is what they just did to you. They threw your reports under the bus for government coffers, government money, and a government position of recognition. It is an ugly, ugly day for people as members of MUFON. And I don't know how they recover from this. I really don't, Tim. And once again, full-fledged, I have never been a part of MUFON. I did speak at their conference last year in Denver, Colorado, where you and I met face-to-face for the first time. Then we went to Vegas. right?
Indeed. Yeah.
But I think this is an absolute disgusting day for MUFON. This is not a day that they should be proud of. They just screwed 50 some years of research to get into bed with the government agencies. Your thoughts?
Yeah. And so I have two questions I would love to fire directly back at you. So I personally had a great MUFON experience, and I feel like the people that are involved are amazing. Now, it may be a broken mechanism, and that is a different story that we are talking about right now. But I must say that the people that are involved in the organization independently and individually, outstanding individuals, and personally helped me and my family cope and figure out how to deal with our UFO um, sighting. Now that's just on a personal note, and I won't get back into that. But so MUFON was part of advising the committee for the public hearings. Is that correct?
That I don't know.
Okay, I had heard that they were asked to advise for the public hearings in 2021. And if you are against the idea of MUFON in particular being a civilian component to Arrow, do you feel that there's an organization out there that has been well established potentially that could be a better representative for a civilian component, an intergoer between Arrow and the public?
MUFON. The problem is, okay, and I have troubles understanding this, and I've had people in MUFON try to explain this to me. The board of directors has really nothing to do with the state directors and what their investigators do. They just collect the evidence. But Dave McDonald, their executive director, has wanted to be one of the UFO big boys for a long time and has always felt that MUFON has been misdirected, misguided in regards to their role with the U.S. government. That's not your job, to be a part of the U.S. government. Your job is to take care of the people who have these reports. It's like I never agreed, and I've argued with people with MUFON. I've never agreed that they have a star team that keeps reports quiet. If you are getting information from the public, okay, your job is to make sure that that public knows what is going on. You're not supposed to be hiding things. Doesn't matter whether you filed a report or not. MUFON has made a great difference within this community, but they sold out. And that's all on the shoulders of Dave McDonald, who has been an ego tripper about this very publicly within the in the MUFON community over the last number of years. And this is what he wants. It isn't what the membership wants. The membership now has to find their will in their way. I was talking to one person today about it right before showtime. And that person was telling me that they may quit over this. They may pack it in, wondering what was their hard work for if it's all going to the U.S. government, who's going to give us, Tim, zero.
Right. And isn't this also kind of along the lines of a case or a story we're going to be covering later tonight? But isn't this the same thing that Enigma Labs has come out recently since December and said they also want to do?
And we're going to get into more MUFON and more of the Enigma Labs when we return on Spaced Out Radio. Little Timmy Senor and the UFO Report continues on the Mighty SOR right after this. Stay tuned. We're clear. me 2 seconds here, Tim. I find it funny that Enigma Labs erased everything off their Twitter yesterday that they posted. Way to go, Alejandro. That's up front. UFO Ho 420, welcome to SOR chat again. Obi Flet, thank you, man, for that great super chat. Obi Flet. You're awfully quiet there, Timbit. Hey, Super Lou, wearing his cape while eating stew. That's all I got, Lou. That's all I got.
Yeah, buddy. How's things going up there in the Great White North?
Need some snow.
Really?
Need some snow.
Is it warm?
No, we keep getting this stupid crosswind that, goes like right through your jacket. I hate that wind, by the way. But it's been sunny. Sunny, cloudy, sunny, cloudy, sunny, cloudy, and no snow. I figure we need about another 3 feet of snow to make sure that we don't get hit with the forest fires this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Got to build up a bunch of fluid to put that out. That's for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is very sure.
And you guys have a bunch of reservoirs up there?
Oh, dude, in an hour's drive, if you put a circle around my area, an hour's drive around, there's about 500 lakes.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Hey, Parker, how are you? Strip that sweater, Dave. Ooh-wee. There you go. Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Hey, I'm loving the swag on your website, by the way.
Hey, where's Random Guy?
All right.
Random Guy.
Say his name.
Here, hold on. We'll call Random Guy. Random Guy.
Uh-oh. What can we call him? Tap a cocktail glass.
He's probably out on the town painting the town red.
Indeed.
Random Guy red.
It is Friday, so that feels right.
Gloria, how are you? I stopped in at Gloria's show the other day just to say hello. We'll be getting into Enigma here in a second. Sweet Louie Pie. You remember Warrant's song? He's my Louie Pie. Puts a smile on your face, 10 miles wide. Stash is so good, makes a grown man cry. Sweet Louie Pie. Oh, come on. That was freaking brilliant. That was freaking brilliant.
Everything you do is magic.
All right, here we go. 4 seconds.
All right.
Round and third, we're headed for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for joining us. Very much appreciated. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram, Spaced Out Radio Show. And Tim, are you coming down to San Francisco with me for UFO Con 2023?
I'm going to try. Yeah, I'm going to try and be your sidekick.
I am the MC there. Great speakers going on. Go get your tickets. Hit up Lori and Fenton at UFOCon2023.com. March 17th through 19th. Old Davey will be there, so would love to see you there as well. All right, right before the break, we were getting into Mufon, how they have sold out to the government. Well, the board of directors has. The state directors and the people who do the real awesome work have not. And I'm just going to reiterate this. I really think the state directors have to call an emergency meeting. I know some states have already called emergency meetings in regards to this letter that Dave McDonald put out. And I really hope that those states get together and they have a very serious talk about the actions of their board of directors. And look, one thing I want to say is Mufon does great work. I think they do. And you have to separate the board of directors who run the business side from the people who are actually boots on the ground doing the research. Okay, just like I said last half hour. You have to be able to separate the two. And what the Mufon board did, led by Executive Director Dave McDonald, was literally took all their statistics and basically said, here, U.S. government, here, military, here, Enigma, take them all. Take them all. They're all for you. You want names, phone numbers, emails, underwear size, it's all right there. It's all right there. And once again, the people with boots on the ground are getting screwed. So my advice to anybody, any state director listening to this, gather your states around and have an emergency meeting and then ask for the board's resignation over this. Stick up for the people. Mufon is the only group that has the ability, if they wanted, to stick up for the people, the public. And I know people are not going to agree with me. I don't care. I already know people in Mufon who are agreeing with me. That's how I got this opinion. Let's move on to Enigma. What do you got new, Tim?
Well, it's mostly the connection to the topic that you were just talking about there with Mufon wanting to come out and become the civilian component for Arrow. Because recently in the news, it looks like Enigma Labs, a global platform for unidentified aerospace and undersea phenomenon sightings, is now accepting submissions for members of the aviation community, including general aviation pilots, flight instructors, students, military aviators, and others. And so according to the officials with Enigma Labs, an independent, by the way, private technology company that is for profit, by the way, not a non-profit, a for-profit company, building an empirical, reliable network of UFO sightings to support aviators and researchers, investigate efforts and aviation safety, having been hindered by a lack of coordination and access to quality information. And so with the reports being submitted through their website, you are being asked to potentially keep yourself anonymous. And so a lot of the reports, although they'll be made part of this system, there would be potentially the anonymity factor still involved with these reported sightings. And so with now this new push for this independent company to come out and, potentially represent the general aviation community with all of their UFO sightings and obviously for sale information, making themselves available to the government and Arrow. And I'm wondering, does this send up red flags for you as well, knowing some of the people that are working within this company, and in particular, perhaps their PR guy just really dropping the ball, getting the real purpose and direction of what this company is all about out there?
You know what? As I stated last night with Louis Borges on the show, all right, the fact that they are trying to remain anonymous on absolutely everything is not good for ufology. And there are rumors flying around left, right, and center on what is going on. Now, if the rumor is true that Peter Thiel is the one backing this financially, he has the money to do it. This is a guy who helped co-create PayPal. He was one of the earliest and first investors into Facebook. If you Google him, he's worth between $4 and $8 billion. He's got the money to do this. The project of Enigma does not bother me, or whatever their goals are. What does bother me is that they are trying to snip people from our field, get them to sign NDAs, and then not allow them to speak that they are actually a part of Enigma. And the funny part about this is this. Yesterday, they stirred up a bunch of controversy on their Twitter account. Well, it's all been erased. It's all been erased off their Twitter account, where they were saying, we don't work with government. We don't work for anybody. We are independent. And in the next sentence says, we are now working with Arrow and NASA. And Enigma is also speaking at a conference that NASA is putting on privately, with the branches of the military being there, Avi Loeb being there, Galileo being represented, and Enigma. Who's a part of Enigma? The only ones we really know are what we learned off of LinkedIn. Alejandro Rojas is their marketing and content director. Now, people will know him from the International UFO Conference, or whatever it stands for, one that I will never be invited to, nor do I care. Okay, this is a gentleman who claims to be a journalist, but he's never worked in journalism. He is also claiming that he is doing that the SCU, Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies, and Enigma are working together, which my sources within the board of SCU have said, no, we are not working together. So that's it.
Yeah.
Right. Why erase the tweet, Tim? Why erase the tweets?
Yeah, that is highly suspicious. You wouldn't if there was nothing to hide, obviously. But the fact remains that it's one of those things that we absolutely need to have at some point, some civilian component and some kind of public oversight within the Arrow. And the dialogue needs to, at some point, include how the public is going to get information on what is being done on the topic. Because at this point, we're only getting secondhand information and, occasional news stories and breaks. Now, I am very suspicious of any new company that wants to collaborate with the government on, public information, because especially as you've highlighted it, a lot of those cases are anonymous. Now, I don't know how they validate anything when it's anonymous. Now, I don't know if it's anonymous to the researchers or to the public, or if it's just to everyone. But again, that'll be, something to look into more. But my investigation on their website is that there's very limited access without the pay for play aspect. And so we'll see further as we dig into it.
Louis Borges brought up a good point last night on this show. And what he said was people don't trust companies. They don't trust organizations. They trust the people within the organization who are representing the organization. All right? You go to a car lot. If you don't like your salesperson, you're not going to like the product. Then what do? You go to the next lot and you find something that interests you there, or you find another salesperson. For them trying to keep their staff hidden and silent makes zero sense. Removing tweets just because people are questioning things does not make sense. Okay? I've been chatting through the show. People have been seeing me through the show looking at my phone. I've been chatting with a couple of reporters out there, real journalists, not self-titled ones, who we've been talking about Enigma tonight. And I've been asking them point blank, are you involved? No, we're not getting involved. We are not getting involved. Too many questions. Don't even know who's involved. There's no need for this secrecy unless they are going against their public persona and actually signing contracts with the government. No need to hide. None whatsoever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hate seeing the money grab when it comes to public information, witness accounts, people's pain and suffering potentially, and definitely that is kind of what it's looking like here from both Mufon and Enigma Labs now. And so that, right off the bat sends off many red flags, as it should.
Absolutely.
So you're absolutely 100% right.
You can't trust people who are not identifying themselves. Like we found out on Twitter that Ben Hansen, from television fame, the former FBI agent, will be working with Mufon. Okay? I'm sure he got a pretty penny. Because some of the numbers that I'm hearing that are being thrown around, and I will not give up my sources on this, are pretty incredible. That the majority of us would take that contract if you didn't have scruples. But the secrecy of everything, the removal of tweets, I mean, hey, if they remove that because of what we said on the air last night, where we went through everything word by word and how it looked like a grade 9 student wrote what was on their website, so be it.
Yeah.
So be it. And by the way, one of the things that Alejandro Rojas, who is a part of Enigma, very publicly right now, stated on his own Twitter account was that he didn't want to, something along the lines of he didn't want to feed the trolls. Okay. Well, when I looked down the list of who was questioning on the first tweets, there was Stephen Greenstreet, love him or hate him. There was myself and a few others. Calling Mr. Journalist, okay, you're a journalist because you say you are, calling journalists trolls because you don't agree with their line of questioning is not very journalistic. It does not have much journalistic integrity to put down another journalist. And if you have a problem with that said journalist, you pick up the phone and you call them out. And you talk to them. That is the role of a PR person if he actually knew how to do the job of a PR person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there is obviously a fair amount of money that is predictably going to be available to a real group that comes out with information that could be used in some way, in a positive way, to enlighten Arrow. And it seems like there's all these groups coming out of the woodwork hoping to bid for this in their own way, whether it be in writing or coming out publicly with a brand new website that is so shiny but lacking any information whatsoever from Enigma Labs, or any of the other independent companies that are coming out hoping to claim that they are independent and can come up with legitimate research. I mean, obviously, we're seeing some of the recent companies that we even covered earlier this week erasing their tracks. And so at least at this point, the numbers are going to dwindle down to the real
But if
players.
you noticed, Tim, everything is going into secret mode. Okay?
And why do you think that is? Too many skeletons in the closet.
I was talking to Nicole Sackich before the show. Okay, and she brought up a good point. This is exactly, and I'm not familiar with the Condon report. I apologize. I should be. Okay, but this is apparently exactly what happened right before the Condon report was released a number of years ago.
Yeah, but couldn't a lot of people argue that that report was to kill people, to kill the truth and send people off into the wrong direction? Potentially. I'm just thinking that why these companies would go into silent mode is telling me that they're wanting to remain in a position that the government would still find them attractive. That Arrow would be like, well, they're still working quietly enough and the public doesn't care about them enough, that we could work with them, But again, I also feel that they potentially have skeletons in their closet. And if the likes of someone that likes to dig looks too deeply, they may not survive the airing, if you will, of their closet, and wouldn't make it possibly to the coffers of the government and get in on the money grab that is the new UAP topic, not UFO, but UAP. UAP is a cash grab. UFO is real.
Absolutely. Brilliantly put. Brilliantly put. Okay, as we got about 4 minutes to go here. If Enigma Labs didn't have anything to hide, they would be going at it a much different way. Look, if they have, let's say Peter Thiel threw millions of dollars at this to set it up. You want to keep that quiet? Fine, because it's a private corporation. You're allowed to keep that quiet. You're allowed to keep your board of directors quiet. But why not announce who your investigators are? You are asking the public to trust you with some of their most personal information on what they've experienced, much like Mufon. And all you're doing is turning it over to the government. Right. That's all you're doing.
Right. Well, let's consider for a fact that this is a fairly new company. In fact, if you go to their very scant but beautiful website, you'll see that they're looking for very crucial roles within their company still, and probably don't have a lot of members.
Who has the roles now?
Nobody.
Outside of Alejandro Rojas, who has the roles now?
Well, I know
because we don't know.
They're looking for a chief information security officer, community manager, the DevOps personnel. The lead data scientist is an available position.
Yeah, we went over this. We went over
that
that
is
last
scary
night.
Information to know that they don't have any of these roles fulfilled. That tells me that they're looking for funding before fulfillment.
What roles do they have filled now?
Yeah, we don't know.
Okay, you could go on LinkedIn and you can find a list. Okay, you can find a list of who works for them. And that list, there's only one person from our ufology there. That is Alejandro Rojas. Okay?
Yeah.
That's it. There is a list of about 9-10 people there. Okay? They're gathering the data. They're going to scrub the data for the government. That's what they want to do. Even though they're saying that we're not in cahoots with the government, but we're in cahoots with the government. Okay? And I'll show you the tweet. Let me go to my Twitter handle here for a second, if I can find it here. It's from, let's see. Where is it here? Here it is. The tweet read yesterday, "We are excited to collaborate with groups like Aero and NASA to improve UAP reporting and scientific research. We have always been and continue to be private and independent with no government or big tech affiliations." But they're working with Avro or Aero and NASA.
Yeah. So many problems with that statement.
And by the way, that tweet has been erased. Their terms and conditions that was put out on Twitter yesterday was erased. It's not a real good way to start business.
Red flags.
If you're going to be erasing tweets because you're afraid of people breaking it down and real journalists breaking it down.
Yeah. It's going to be choppy. It'll be interesting to see though where it lands, because at this point, we don't know enough. I would like to see something positive come, because we do need something like this, but we need the transparency. We need the public access. And I don't like the fact that you have to pay for membership before you can get full access to cases. That's frustrating.
Yeah, and Mufon does it for free.
But even so, even with Mufon, there's only a layer you can get to. When you become a member, then you have full access.
True. Tim, very, very interesting UFO report tonight.
It's been a fun week.
Been a very, very fun week.
And
Appreciate you, my man.
Yeah.
Appreciate Swamp Dweller coming on in and chatting with us with another spooky story, and very much appreciate author W.T. Watson coming on in, talking monsters of Canada. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight, YouTube, Twitch, Space Travelers Club, Spreaker, LinkedIn, and on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Bear with me. Why the hell it did that again? There we go. All right. Let's load that. It's going to be a good weekend. Good weekend. Get rid of that. Any questions, comments, anything you want to chat about? Let me know. Put it in capital letters. We can get into it. I don't know what Tim was drinking. Probably some health food drink. He likes some health food drinks. Will the Oilers crap the bed tomorrow? No, it's hockey night in Canada. They will win. Yep. Mark him I have. Oh, let's go here. Dave already knew that he wouldn't be. So Dave's not too worried about that. Yes, I know who Jaime Musan is. Our show is on too late for him to come on. We have tried. The Michael Leger. The You sounded like your words sounded like, or read like you joined the TTSA. It's not even what I said. You're blowing things out of proportion. It's not even what I said. You need to go back and listen to what I said. Okay? I did not insult Mufon. I was taking on the board of directors. Big difference between what you think I said and what I actually said. I have no idea what Vegas hanky pank is. I'm a good Christian boy. I know that sucks. I'm mad about that, Nicole. Well, I mean, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. But SOR, selfishly speaking, I'm mad. Makes me want to throw a shoe. Just one, not two. That way I can walk lopsided the entire weekend. Nope. No Bigfoot footprints. Good night, Monica. Ozzy Ange, are you and the hubby making it this year? Since we missed you by just a few days last year on both ends. John Sabe Mellon, I do not believe in disclosure. I believe that we are seeing confirmation of the phenomena, and that is all we are going to get. That's because it is a negative situation, Nicole. And I feel sorry for the state directors and the investigators who now have to deal with that mess of selling out. I talked to 2 state directors about that today too. And they seem to agree with me. That's how I got the point. Ozzy Ange, if you show up to Vegas, you and I will go zip lining on Fremont. How about that? I will not give up my sources right now. I don't play the give up the sources game. You know that. Do you think I just make this up, Nicole? Like, seriously. Do you think I'm that stupid just to explode on that? Whatever. There we go. No, I'm not getting pissy at all. I'm not getting pissy at all. But you're saying that I said things that I didn't say. Whatever. It's over. And yes, I do, Raz. I am a believer in Bob Lazar. Right. That's done. Give me 2 seconds, guys. Due date. Hello, Xochitl Richards. How are you? Okay, I'll be right back, guys. Okay. Hello. Good folder. Drop that in. Give me 2 seconds, guys. And upload. Okay, now I'm back. Chair didn't move again. Sorry, Joe. Yeah, Dave has a squeaky nose. Squeak, squeak. Hey, bombshell bomber. Any other questions for old Davey at this time? Anybody about to Uber Eats Taco Bell? Hmm. Doug is doing all right. He's doing all right. All right, don't forget this weekend that you guys got Jessica Jones Saturday and Sunday starting at 7 p.m. with Off the Trails, and then After Hours with Grant and the team going from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. And then I will be back on Monday night with Wallace Wagner, UFOs in the Bible. It's going to be good. Aliens. Yeah, we're going to go there. Thank you tonight to Ollie Gandalf times 2 or 3, Vaughn, Obi Flett, Robo times 2, pardon me, Vaughn times 2, Hugh times 2, Louis times 3, Thomas, Maggie, Stephen, Juan, NorCal, Deb, W. Decker, and Pam. Love it. Thank you so much for the love. You guys enjoy your weekend. You make sure you tune in this weekend. Don't forget, if you haven't already, give us a thumbs up. And don't forget, everyone, that if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, UFO Con 2023, I will be there March 17th through 19th. And I'd love to meet up with all of you guys. And I'd love to see you there. And so come on out and support it. They've got a great list of speakers. You can get your tickets at UFOCon2023.com right now. So make sure you do that. We will see you all on Monday. Take care, everyone. See you later.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.